They say the uniform makes the man. Captain Derek Holloway had believed that for 30 years. 4 gold stripes on his shoulders, a crisp white shirt, a cap with the eagle insignia. These were the symbols of authority, competence, and respect. When Captain Holloway walked through an airport, people moved out of his way. When he spoke, people listened. And when he decided someone didn't belong on his aircraft, they didn't belong. Period. On a humid Tuesday afternoon at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, Captain Derek Holloway made a decision that would cost him everything. He looked at the 17-year-old black girl in seat 1A, saw her ripped jeans and ratty backpack, heard her quiet voice, and decided she was a criminal. He decided she had stolen a ticket. He decided she needed to be removed from his plane. And he decided all of this within 30 seconds, without asking a single question, without checking a single fact, without exercising even a shred of the judgment that supposedly came with 3 decades of flying. What Captain Holloway didn't know, what his arrogance and prejudice prevented him from seeing, was that the little thief he was about to humiliate in front of 200 passengers was Zara Okafor. Her father, Chima Okafor, was a Nigerian-American billionaire who had made his fortune in private equity. And one of his crown jewel acquisitions was Apex Aviation Holdings, the parent company that owned Skyward Airlines, the very airline Captain Holloway flew for. Chima Okafor owned 73% of the company. He was the largest shareholder. He sat on the board. And his daughter, the girl Captain Holloway was about to drag off the plane, was flying home from a summer internship at MIT. This is the story of how a uniform met its match. This is the story of how racism crashed and burned at 35,000 feet. Here's what happened when arrogance met ownership. The first-class cabin of Skyward Flight 2847 from Dallas to New York JFK was nearly empty. It was a Tuesday afternoon, a dead zone for business travel. Of the 12 first-class seats, only 4 were occupied. An elderly white couple in row 3 were reading matching paperback novels. A middle-aged Asian businessman in row 2 was typing furiously on a laptop. And in row 1, seat 1A, the coveted window seat with extra legroom, sat Zara Okafor. Zara was 17, though people often thought she was younger. She was small, barely 52, with dark skin, natural hair pulled into 2 puffs on either side of her head, and the kind of face that adults called sweet in a way that made her want to scream. She wore ripped light-wash jeans, a faded purple hoodie with MIT Summer STEM Academy printed in cracking white letters, and beat-up white Vans with doodles drawn on the rubber soles in Sharpie. Her backpack sitting in the seat next to her was covered in pins. Black girl's code. Nevertheless, she persisted, Wakanda forever, and a small Nigerian flag. Zara had her phone out, FaceTiming with her best friend Maya back in Boston. "I'm telling you," Maya was saying, her face pixelated on the screen, "if you don't text Brandon back, I'm going to do it for you." Zara laughed, shaking her head. "Maya, he's not even." "Girl, he asked you to homecoming. You can't just ghost him." "I'm not ghosting, I'm strategically delaying." "That's the definition of ghosting." Zara was about to respond when she noticed movement at the front of the cabin. A flight attendant, a young white woman with blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, was walking toward her with an uncomfortable expression. "Hold on," Zara said to Maya. "I think someone wants to talk to me." "Miss," the flight attendant said, stopping next to Zara's seat. Her name tag read Ashley. Zara looked up. "Yes." Ashley's smile was tight, forced. "Hi, I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to see your boarding pass." Zara blinked. "My boarding pass?" "Yes, please." Zara glanced around the cabin. No one else was being asked for their boarding pass. The elderly couple hadn't been approached. The businessman hadn't been approached, just her. "Is there a problem?" Zara asked quietly. "No problem," Ashley said, her voice bright and fake. "Just a random security check. It'll only take a second." Zara didn't believe that for a second, but she unlocked her phone and pulled up her mobile boarding pass. She handed the phone to Ashley. Ashley looked at the screen. Her eyes widened slightly. She looked at Zara, then back at the screen. "This says first class seat." "Yes," Zara said. "That's where I'm sitting." Ashley's smile faltered. "And how did you get this ticket?" Zara felt a familiar tightness in her chest. She'd experienced this before, the assumption that she didn't belong, that she must have done something wrong, that there must be some mistake. "I booked it," Zara said, keeping her voice even. "Well, my dad booked it. It's my ticket." "Your dad booked you a first-class ticket?" "Yes." Ashley looked skeptical. "Miss, a first-class ticket on this route costs around $2,400. Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Zara interrupted. Her voice was sharper now. "It's my ticket. I didn't steal it. I'm not sneaking into first class. I'm a passenger with a valid boarding pass." Ashley took a step back. "I didn't say you stole it." "You implied it." "I'm just doing my job." "Your job is to check tickets randomly?" Zara asked. "Or your job is to check the tickets of black teenagers who don't look like they belong in first class?" Ashley's face flushed. I'm not." "Can I have my phone back, please?" Ashley handed the phone back, her hand trembling slightly. "I'm going to need to speak to the captain," she said stiffly, "just to verify." "Verify what?" Zara asked, but Ashley was already walking away. On the phone screen, Maya's eyes were huge. "Zara, what the hell?" "They think I stole the ticket," Zara said quietly. She felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to cry. She wouldn't give them that satisfaction. "That's insane. Call your dad." "I'm not calling my dad because some flight attendant is on a power trip." "Zara." "I'll handle it." But even as she said it, Zara wasn't sure she could. 5 minutes later, the cockpit door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, over 6 feet, with broad shoulders and a square jaw. His hair was silver gray, cut short in a military style. He wore the full captain's uniform, white shirt with 4 gold stripes on the shoulders, black pants with a razor-sharp crease, black shoes polished to a mirror shine. His face was weathered, lined with years of sun exposure and stress. He was white, probably in his late 50s, and he carried himself with the kind of authority that expected obedience. This was Captain Derek Holloway, 30 years with Skyward Airlines, over 20,000 flight hours, decorated Air Force veteran, 3 grown sons, all of whom followed him into aviation, a man who believed in rules, order, and respect for authority. A man who had never questioned whether his authority might be built on a foundation of privilege and prejudice. Captain Holloway walked directly to row 1. He stopped next to Zara's seat. He didn't smile. He didn't introduce himself. He just looked down at her with an expression that was equal parts suspicion and disdain. "You," he said. His voice was deep, commanding. "Stand up." Zara looked up at him. "Excuse me." "I said stand up now." Zara's heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. "Why?" "Because I'm the captain of this aircraft, and I'm giving you a direct order. I'm a passenger with a valid ticket. I don't have to." "You don't get to tell me what you do or don't have to do," Holloway interrupted. His voice was louder now, carrying through the cabin. The other passengers were staring. "I have reason to believe you are not authorized to be in this cabin. I'm going to need you to gather your belongings and come with me." Zara felt like the air had been sucked out of the cabin. "I am authorized," she said. "I showed your flight attendant my boarding pass. It's a valid ticket." "A ticket that you claim your father bought." "He did buy it." "Uh-huh." Holloway's tone made it clear he didn't believe her. "And where is your father now?" "He's in New York. I'm flying to meet him." "So you're traveling alone?" "Yes." A 17-year-old girl traveling alone in first class with a ticket that supposedly costs $2,400. Holloway shook his head. "I've been flying for 30 years, young lady. I know a scam when I see one." "It's not a scam," Zara's voice broke. She hated how young she sounded, how powerless. I can call my dad right now. I can prove. You can prove it to airport security, Holloway said. Now stand up. I'm not going anywhere. Holloway's jaw tightened. He turned to Ashley, who was hovering nearby. Call security. Tell them we have an uncooperative passenger refusing to deplane. Sir, Ashley said hesitantly, maybe we should just. Did I ask for your opinion? No, sir. Then make the call. Ashley pulled out a radio, her hands shaking. Zara felt panic rising in her chest. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't actually be happening. She pulled out her phone with trembling fingers and called her father. It rang once, twice, 3 times, voicemail. She tried again, voicemail. Dad, please, she whispered, please pick up. Holloway watched her with his arms crossed. No one's coming to save you, sweetheart. Now are you going to get up, or do I need to have you physically removed? Zara looked at him, really looked at him. She saw the certainty in his eyes, the absolute conviction that he was right. She saw the way he looked at her, not as a person, not as a passenger, but as a problem to be solved, a threat to be neutralized. You're making a mistake, Zara said quietly. Holloway leaned down, bringing his face closer to hers. His breath smelled like coffee. The only mistake here is yours, trying to fly first class on a stolen or fraudulent ticket. That's a federal crime, young lady. When security gets here, they're going to arrest you. And trust me, you do not want to go to jail with a federal charge on your record. Zara felt tears spill down her cheeks. She wiped them away angrily. Oh, here come the tears, Holloway said, straightening up. He turned to the other passengers who were watching with a mix of discomfort and morbid fascination. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. We have a passenger who is attempting to use fraudulent credentials to access this cabin. For your safety and security, she will be removed from the aircraft immediately. The elderly woman in row 3 looked at her husband. Oh my, she whispered. The businessman in row 2 was recording on his phone. Zara saw the phone. She locked eyes with the man. Please, she said, please keep recording. I didn't do anything wrong. The man nodded slowly. 2 airport security officers arrived. They were both men, one white, one Latino, in dark blue uniforms with badges and radios. Captain Holloway, the white officer said. That's me, Holloway said, shaking his hand. Thanks for getting here so quickly. This young woman is in first class with what I believe to be a fraudulent ticket. She's refusing to cooperate and refusing to leave the aircraft voluntarily. The officer looked at Zara. Miss, can you show me your ticket? Zara handed him her phone with shaking hands. The officer looked at the screen. He looked at Holloway. Sir, this ticket appears to be valid. It's a mobile boarding pass linked to her name. It's fraudulent, Holloway insisted. How do you know that? Look at her. Holloway gestured at Zara's outfit, her backpack, her tear-streaked face. Does she look like someone who can afford a $2,400 ticket? The officer hesitated. Sir, I can't remove a passenger based on how they look. Then do your job and investigate. Run her name. Check if there have been any reports of stolen credit cards or identity theft. I guarantee you this ticket was not purchased legitimately. The officer sighed. He looked at Zara. Miss, I'm going to need you to come with us while we sort this out. No, Zara said. I'm not going anywhere. I have a valid ticket. I have a right to be here. Miss, if you don't comply, we'll have no choice but to remove you by force. Zara looked around the cabin, at the passengers staring, at the flight attendant avoiding eye contact, at the captain with his arms crossed and a satisfied smirk on his face. She stood up, she grabbed her backpack, and she walked off the plane with her head held high, even as tears streamed down her face. Behind her, Captain Holloway boarded the cockpit, confident he had just protected his passengers from a criminal. He had no idea that in exactly 90 minutes, his entire world would collapse. Zara sat in a small, windowless room in the airport security office. It smelled like stale coffee and industrial cleaner. The walls were beige. The table was metal and cold. She'd been there for 45 minutes. The security officers had taken her phone, her backpack, her ID. They'd asked her the same questions over and over. Who bought the ticket? My father. What's his name? Chima Akefur. How do you spell that? She spelled it. What does he do? He's a businessman. What kind of business? Private equity. They'd exchanged glances at that. And he bought you a first-class ticket. Yes. Why? Because he wanted me to be comfortable. Where's he getting that kind of money? Zara had stared at them. He earned it. They'd left her alone then, to verify her story. Through the small window in the door, she could see them talking, making phone calls, typing on computers. Her phone buzzed on the table. They'd finally returned it. She grabbed it. 15 missed calls from her father, 23 text messages. The most recent, Zara, where are you? Your plane should have landed an hour ago. Call me. Zara called him back. He answered on the first ring. Zara, where are you? Are you okay? Dad, her voice broke. I'm at the airport in Dallas. They took me off the plane. They what? The captain said my ticket was fake. He said I stole it. He had security remove me. There was a long silence on the other end. When her father spoke again, his voice was very, very quiet. They removed you from the plane. Yes. Because they thought you stole the ticket. Yes. Zara, what airline were you flying? Skyward. Another silence, longer this time. Dad. I'm going to make some calls, Chima said. His voice was calm, controlled, but Zara could hear the fury underneath. Don't say anything else to security. Don't sign anything. I'm going to have our lawyer contact you within 10 minutes. Do you understand? Dad, I didn't do anything wrong. I know, baby, I know. His voice softened. But you're about to see what happens when someone messes with my daughter. He hung up. Zara sat in the cold room, waiting. 9 minutes later, a woman in an expensive suit walked through the door. She was black, in her 40s, with natural hair and the kind of presence that commanded attention. Zara Akefur, the woman asked. Zara nodded. I'm Patricia Williams. I'm your father's attorney. You're free to go. Zara blinked. What? I said you're free to go. They have no legal basis to detain you. Your ticket was purchased legitimately. You committed no crime. They're releasing you immediately. The security officers appeared behind Patricia, looking sheepish. We were just doing our due diligence, the white officer said. We had to verify. You detained a minor for 45 minutes without parental consent or legal representation, Patricia interrupted, her voice sharp. You violated her civil rights. We'll be discussing that later. Right now, she's leaving. Zara grabbed her backpack and followed Patricia out of the security office. Your father sent a car, Patricia said as they walked through the terminal. It's waiting outside. He also booked you on the next flight to New York on a different airline. What about the captain? Zara asked. What about the people who did this to me? Patricia smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator who just spotted prey. Oh, sweetheart, your father is handling that personally. Meanwhile, 30,000 feet above Texas, Captain Derek Holloway was flying Flight 2847 to New York without a care in the world. The first-class cabin was quiet. The passengers had settled down after the disturbance. Ashley had brought him coffee in the cockpit, apologizing for not catching the problem sooner. You did the right thing, Holloway had told her. That's why we have protocols. That's why we stay vigilant. He felt good, righteous. He'd protected his passengers. He'd upheld the standards of the airline His radio crackled. Flight 2847, this is Dallas Center. We need you to contact company operations on frequency 131.85. Priority message. Holloway frowned. Priority messages were rare, usually reserved for medical emergencies or security threats. He switched frequencies. Skyward Operations, this is Captain Holloway, Flight 2847. Captain Holloway. The voice on the other end was tense. You need to contact the chief pilot's office immediately upon landing. Do not deplane. Do not speak to passengers. Report directly to the CP office. What's this about? I can't discuss it over the radio, sir. Just, please comply. Holloway's stomach dropped. Something was wrong. He tried calling the chief pilot's office from the air. No answer. He tried the VP of operations. No answer. For the first time in 30 years, Captain Derek Holloway felt genuinely afraid. When Flight 2847 landed at JFK, there was a welcoming committee waiting, not the usual kind. 3 men in dark suits standing at the gate. One of them was holding a tablet. Another was holding what looked like legal documents. As soon as the aircraft door opened, they boarded. Captain Derek Holloway, the first man asked. Holloway stood in the cockpit doorway. That's me. I'm James Chen, VP of Operations for Skyward Airlines. This is Marcus Webb from Legal, and this is Detective Rodriguez from the Port Authority Police. Holloway felt his mouth go dry. What's going on? We need you to come with us, Captain. There are some serious allegations that need to be addressed. Allegations? Regarding your conduct on Flight 2847, specifically, your removal of a passenger. Holloway's mind raced. The girl, the one with the fraudulent ticket. James Chen's expression hardened. Her ticket wasn't fraudulent, Captain. It was purchased by her father who happens to be Chima Okafor. The name meant nothing to Holloway. Who? Chima Okafor, CEO of Okafor Holdings, the largest shareholder of Apex Aviation Holdings, which owns Skyward Airlines, which means, Captain Holloway, that the girl you removed from first class was the daughter of the man who owns this airline. The blood drained from Holloway's face. No, he whispered. Yes, James said. And Mr. Okafor is not happy. In fact, he's on his way here right now. He's requested a personal meeting with everyone involved in this incident. So you're going to come with us, and you're going to wait in a conference room, and you're going to start praying that he's feeling merciful. Holloway's legs felt weak. I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't ask, Marcus Webb cut in. You saw a black teenager in first class, assumed she didn't belong, and had her forcibly removed without conducting even basic due diligence. Do you have any idea how many laws you just broke? How many company policies you violated? She looked suspicious. She looked black, James said quietly. That's what you mean, isn't it, Captain? She looked like she didn't belong in first class because she's black. That's not what I... Save it for Mr. Okafor. They escorted Holloway off the aircraft. Passengers stared as he walked through the terminal flanked by suits and a police officer. He'd never felt so humiliated in his life. They took him to a conference room in the Skyward Airlines administrative building adjacent to the terminal. It was a large room with a long table, leather chairs, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the tarmac. Wait here, James said. They left him alone. Holloway sat down. He pulled out his phone with trembling hands. He started Googling. Chima Okafor. The search results made him feel physically ill. Chima Okafor, billionaire investor and CEO of Okafor Holdings. Net worth, $4.7 billion. Known for aggressive acquisition strategy and zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. Holloway clicked on an article from Forbes. The man who rebuilt American aviation, inside Chima Okafor's empire. The article detailed how Okafor, a Nigerian immigrant who'd come to America at age 19 with $200 in his pocket, had built a private equity empire. He'd started by investing in distressed companies, turning them around, and selling them for massive profits. 5 years ago, he'd acquired Apex Aviation Holdings, which owned 4 regional airlines including Skyward. The article quoted Okafor, "I came to this country with nothing. I was told I didn't belong. I was told to go back where I came from, but I built something anyway. And now I make sure that no one in my companies ever tells someone they don't belong based on how they look." Holloway felt nauseous. He clicked on another article, this one from the Wall Street Journal. Okafor Holdings fires entire executive team over discrimination complaint. The article described how, 3 years ago, a black employee at one of Okafor's portfolio companies had complained about being passed over for promotion due to racism. Okafor had launched an internal investigation, found evidence supporting the claim, and fired not just the manager involved, but the entire C-suite for fostering a discriminatory culture. The quote at the end, "I don't care how profitable you are. I don't care how many deals you close. If you create an environment where people are judged by their skin color instead of their merit, you're gone. No second chances." Holloway put his phone down. His hands were shaking. The door opened. A man walked in. He was tall, over 6 feet, with dark skin, a shaved head, and the kind of build that suggested he still worked out regularly despite being in his 50s. He wore a charcoal gray suit that fit perfectly, a white shirt with no tie, and a watch that probably cost more than Holloway's car. His eyes were dark, intelligent, and currently filled with barely controlled fury. Behind him came Patricia Williams, the attorney. Behind her, James Chen and Marcus Webb. The man walked to the head of the table. He didn't sit. He just stood there looking at Holloway. "Captain Holloway," the man said. His voice was deep, accented with a hint of Nigerian inflection. "My name is Chima Okafor. You removed my daughter from your aircraft today." Holloway stood up. "Mr. Okafor, I—" "Sit down." Holloway sat. "Do you know why I bought this airline?" Chima asked. He still hadn't raised his voice. Somehow that made it more terrifying. "I bought it because when I was 23 years old, fresh off the boat from Lagos, I tried to fly from Miami to New York. I had saved every penny for that ticket. I was wearing my best clothes, and the flight attendant told me I needed to move to the back of the plane. She said first class was for real passengers. When I showed her my ticket, she called security. They searched me, humiliated me, made me miss my flight." He paused. "I swore that day that if I ever had the power, I would make sure that never happened to anyone else. So I bought airlines, I bought Apex, I bought Skyward, and I implemented policies, strict, unambiguous policies, that forbid discrimination based on appearance, age, race, or any other factor. These policies are in your employee handbook, Captain Holloway. Did you read them?" "Yes, sir." "Then you know that removing a passenger without cause is grounds for immediate termination." She looked suspicious. Chima's eyes narrowed. "My daughter looked suspicious. Please, Captain, explain to me what was suspicious about a 17-year-old girl with a valid ticket sitting quietly in her assigned seat." "She was dressed." "How was she dressed?" "Casually, like a student." "She is a student. She just finished a summer program at MIT. She's 17 years old. How exactly should she dress?" Holloway said nothing. "I'll tell you what was suspicious about my daughter, Captain. She was black, that's it. That's the only thing that made you decide she didn't belong in first class." "That's not—" "Don't lie to me." Chima's voice finally rose, sharp and hard. "I have seen the security footage. I have spoken to the other passengers. I have reviewed the incident reports. You didn't ask for her ID. You didn't call to verify the ticket. You just looked at her skin and decided she was a criminal." He leaned forward, placing both hands on the table. My daughter sat in an airport security room for 45 minutes because of you. She cried. She called me, terrified, thinking she was going to be arrested. She's 17 years old and you made her feel like a criminal for the crime of flying while black." Holloway felt tears prickling at his own eyes now. "Mr. Okafor, I'm sorry, I truly am. I made a mistake. I let my assumptions. I'm sorry." "You're sorry?" "Yes, sir." Chima straightened up. "Captain Holloway, you've been with Skyward for 30 years. You have a good record. No accidents, no incidents, until today." Holloway felt a flicker of hope. "Maybe." "You're fired." The hope died. "Effective immediately. Your employee access has been revoked. Your pension is under review. And we are filing a formal complaint with the FAA regarding your conduct." "Mr. Okafor, please." "Furthermore," Chima continued, as if Holloway hadn't spoken, "Detective Rodriguez is here to inform you that you're being charged with unlawful detention and filing a false report. You told security my daughter was using a fraudulent ticket. That was a lie. You knowingly provided false information to law enforcement, which is a crime." Detective Rodriguez stepped forward. "Captain Holloway, you have the right to remain silent." As Rodriguez read him his rights, Holloway felt his entire world crumbling. 30 years, gone, his pension, under review, possibly gone, his reputation destroyed, his freedom, potentially gone. And all because he'd looked at a black girl in first class and decided she didn't belong. The story hit the news within hours. Someone, one of the passengers on Flight 2847, had posted their phone video to Twitter. The video showed Captain Holloway standing over Zara, demanding she leave the aircraft. It showed Zara crying, pleading that she had a valid ticket. It showed security leading her away while Holloway watched with a satisfied expression. The caption, "Pilot removes black teenager from first class, claims she stole ticket. Turns out her dad OWNS the airline. Flying while black, instant karma." The video had 2.3 million views in the first 6 hours. The hashtag #FlyingWhileBlack started trending. People shared their own stories of discrimination on airlines. Flight attendants, pilots, gate agents, they all started sharing the quiet racism they'd witnessed but felt powerless to stop. CNN picked up the story. So did MSNBC, Fox News, BBC, Al Jazeera. By evening, it was international news. Teen daughter of billionaire, removed from plane by racist pilot. Captain fired after discriminating against airline owner's daughter. Chima Okafor vows to clean house at Skyward Airlines after daughter's ordeal. Ashley, the flight attendant who had first questioned Zara's ticket, was also fired. So was the gate supervisor who had called security instead of verifying the ticket properly. So were 3 other employees who'd been involved in the incident. Chima Okafor held a press conference at Skyward's headquarters in Dallas. "What happened to my daughter," he said, standing at a podium surrounded by microphones, "is not an isolated incident. It is systemic, it is pervasive, and it ends now." He announced several new initiatives. Mandatory anti-bias training for all employees, from baggage handlers to C-suite executives. A new passenger Bill of Rights that explicitly forbade discrimination based on appearance. An independent oversight board to investigate discrimination complaints. A $10 million fund to support organizations fighting racism in aviation. Zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior. First offense, immediate termination, no exceptions. "I want to be clear," Chima said. "This is not about revenge. This is about accountability. This is about making sure that no child, no person ever has to experience what my daughter experienced. And if you work for me and you can't treat every passenger with dignity and respect, then you don't work for me anymore." The room erupted in questions, but Chima walked away. Captain Derek Holloway, meanwhile, was sitting in his living room in suburban Dallas, watching the press conference on TV. His wife, Linda, sat next to him in stunned silence. "Derek," she said quietly, "what have you done?" "I didn't know," Derek whispered. "I didn't know who she was." "It shouldn't matter who she was," Linda's voice rose. She'd been married to Derek for 30 years, raised 3 sons with him, supported his career through countless moves and late nights. But as she watched the video of her husband humiliating a teenage girl, something inside her broke. She was a child, Derek, a child with a valid ticket, and you treated her like a criminal because of the color of her skin. "I was doing my job." "Your job is to fly the plane. Your job is not to decide who belongs in first class based on their race." Derek had no response. The calls started coming in. Friends from the airline offering condolences but maintaining distance. His sons, confused and ashamed. His lawyer explaining that the charges were serious and he needed to prepare for court. And then the worst call of all. "Derek Holloway." "Yes." "This is Michael Barnes from the FAA. I'm calling to inform you that your pilot's license is under investigation. Pending the outcome of the criminal charges and the internal investigation by Skyward Airlines, your license is suspended indefinitely." Derek dropped the phone. His license, suspended, possibly revoked. Flying was all he knew. It was his identity. It was who he was. And in one moment of prejudice, he'd lost it all. The criminal trial was swift and brutal. Derek Holloway stood in a Dallas courtroom, listening as the prosecutor laid out the case against him. "Captain Holloway didn't just make a mistake," the prosecutor said. "He abused his authority. He targeted a minor based on her race. He lied to law enforcement, claiming her ticket was fraudulent when he had no evidence to support that claim. And he traumatized a 17-year-old girl who was guilty of nothing more than flying while black." The defense attorney tried to argue that Holloway had been acting in good faith, that he had genuinely believed there was a security concern. The prosecutor presented the security footage. It showed Holloway looking at Zara, looking at the elderly white couple, looking at the Asian businessman. He'd only questioned Zara, only her. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on 2 counts. Filing a false police report and unlawful detention of a minor. Sentencing: 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service, mandatory anti-racism training, and a $50,000 fine. But the legal consequences were nothing compared to the social ones. Derek Holloway became a symbol. He was the face of racism in aviation. His photo was used in diversity training seminars. His case was cited in discrimination lawsuits. His name was synonymous with prejudice. His wife divorced him. She said she couldn't be married to a man who would do what he did. His sons stopped speaking to him. They said they were ashamed to share his name. He tried to get another job, any job. He applied to fly for cargo companies, charter services, flight schools. Every single one rejected him. His name was poison. He ended up working at a Home Depot, stocking shelves, wearing an orange apron, making $15 an hour. One day, 6 months after the incident, he was pushing a cart of lumber down an aisle when he saw a young black girl, maybe 16, wearing a hoodie and ripped jeans, looking at paint samples. His first instinct was to judge her, to assume she was up to something. He caught himself, hated himself. He walked away, tears streaming down his face. Meanwhile, Zara Akaffer was thriving. She'd started her senior year of high school as a minor celebrity. Her classmates treated her like a hero. She'd been invited to speak at conferences, to share her story, to inspire other young black girls. She'd been accepted to MIT Early Decision, full scholarship, not that she needed it. And she'd started a nonprofit with her father's help, Fly with Dignity. It provided legal support and advocacy for passengers who experienced discrimination while traveling. Chima Okafor kept his promise to clean house. Over the next year, he fired 37 employees across the Skyward system for discriminatory behavior. He promoted more people of color into leadership positions. He made Skyward the most diverse airline in America. And every time he flew, he made sure to walk through first class, to make eye contact with every passenger, to remind himself why he'd bought this company in the first place. 3 years later, Derek Holloway was still working at Home Depot. He'd moved to a smaller apartment after the divorce. He drove a 10-year-old Honda. He ate most of his meals alone. One Saturday afternoon, he was working the customer service desk when a man approached. He was tall, black, well-dressed. Holloway recognized him immediately. Chima Okafor. Derek felt his mouth go dry. Mr. Okafor. Chima looked at him, really looked at him. Captain Holloway, or just Derek now, I suppose. Yes, sir. Chima picked up a bag of mulch from a nearby display. I'm doing some gardening. My daughter just moved into her dorm at MIT. Thought I'd keep busy. Derek nodded. He didn't know what to say. How are you, Derek? The question was so unexpected, so human, that Derek almost started crying. I'm making it, sir. Good. Chima set the mulch down. Derek, I didn't come here to buy mulch. I came here to talk to you. Why? Because 3 years ago you hurt my daughter. You humiliated her. You made her feel like she didn't belong in a seat she'd paid for, and I've been angry about that for 3 years. Derek nodded. You have every right to be. But Zara, Chima continued, Zara isn't angry anymore. She's moved on. She's thriving. And she told me something last week that stuck with me. She said, Dad, Captain Holloway lost everything because of what he did. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it's time to let it go. Derek felt tears sliding down his cheeks. She's very kind. She is, much kinder than I am. Chima pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. This is information about a program. It's run by Fly with Dignity, the nonprofit Zara started. They provide training for people who have been accused of discrimination, help them understand what they did wrong, help them become better. He handed the envelope to Derek. I don't expect you to ever fly again, Chima said. Your license is permanently revoked, but maybe you can do something with what you learned. Maybe you can help other people avoid making the same mistake you made. Derek opened the envelope. It was a brochure for a training program, and clipped to it was a handwritten note. Captain Holloway, I forgive you. I hope you can forgive yourself. Zara. Derek broke down. He stood there behind the Home Depot customer service desk, sobbing, clutching the note. Chima watched him for a moment, then he turned and walked away. Derek stood there for a long time, reading the note over and over. He'd lost everything. His career, his family, his reputation. But maybe, just maybe, he could build something new, something better, something that actually helped people instead of hurting them. It was a long shot, but it was all he had. So here's the question. Did Captain Holloway deserve what happened to him? Was the punishment too harsh, or was it exactly what he earned? And more importantly, if you were Zara, could you forgive someone who humiliated you in front of hundreds of people? Let me know in the comments. If you believe in accountability and second chances, in that order, hit that like button. And if you want more stories about karma, justice, and people learning the hardest lessons, subscribe and turn on notifications. Remember, the uniform doesn't make the person, character does. And sometimes the people who look like they don't belong are exactly where they're supposed to be.